Major findings tonight in a David Hammer investigation.
David and our partners over the Times-Picayune New Orleans Advocate crunched the numbers, and they found it's taking twice as long for New Orleans police to respond to high-priority emergencies as we did just 3 years ago.
Well, the police improved a lot after our NOPD call waiting series in 2015. But as David explains, the challenge is much tougher now and the delays much longer.
Mark Mascar moved to New Orleans from England 3 years ago to pursue his passion as a street photographer. But he couldn't foresee what he would encounter on the streets of Mid-City.
For 25 years in London, I thought I'd seen it all. I thought I'd felt every sense of fear I could feel. That was different.
He's talking about the morning of May 30th. Mascar was taking his dog Lotus on a morning walk when he saw two men in a pickup truck try to break into a parked vehicle. They saw him recording them with his cell phone, made a U-turn, and flashed guns at him.
And it's just sheer panic, like I've got to get out, I've got to get out.
He ran down the block and scrambled under a van parked in this driveway. He pulled Lotus underneath with him and called 911.
Are you or anyone else in danger right now?
I'm in danger. They're chasing me with a gun.
9 minutes went by.
How long is it going to be?
Fortunately, sir, I do not have an ETA. The only thing I know is that they're on their way to that location.
He could see the truck circling, searching for him and his confused, all too conspicuous dog. So Mascar made a desperate run for his doctor's house about a block away.
I just bang on his door and says, "Thomas, let me in. I'm being chased with some guys with a gun. Please let me in." They're just sitting there from breakfast. I burst in, covered in sweat.
We found Mascar's 911 call in the New Orleans Police Department's calls for service records. It came in at 8:38 a.m. on May 30th. For some reason, it's recorded as a suspicious person call, and it says it took 14 minutes for police to arrive. But records show police didn't come to the address Mascar gave them. He found two police units parked on his street when he decided it was safe to go back to his house.
Didn't even get out of the car and say, you know, are you okay? I said, look, I have video of these guys. They're in the pickup truck, the gray pickup truck.
Mascar says the officers wouldn't take the video, and records show they didn't file any report on the incident. Instead, they marked the case as gone on arrival and closed it.
They said, you know, we'll have a drive round, but they're probably gone by now. I said, well, 25 minutes, so I'm sure they're probably in the North Shore or something by now anyway.
But NOPD's own data show that 25 minutes is still faster than the average NOPD response time, even for emergencies. According to the public data, their average response time in 2022 for Code 2 calls, the emergency top priority calls, is now up above 31 minutes. That's more than twice as high as it was in 2019. And it even dwarfs the 19-minute average we found in our NOPD call waiting investigation in 2015. That was the worst in the country at the time. Then Chief Michael Harrison acknowledged the problem and moved quickly to redeploy officers.
But we're working to fix it, and anything that's been brought to my attention, I've demonstrated that this team, under this administration, is focused 100% of our energy and attention to solving problems and fixing problems.
City Council President Helena Moreno says current NOPD Chief Sean Ferguson isn't showing the same sense of urgency.
30 minutes is too late. 30 minutes is someone's potentially dead.
The situation is even more dire in New Orleans East, where the average response time on emergencies in NOPD's 7th District is now 53 minutes.
And that's on emergency calls. That's, you know, hey, somebody's been shot. That's an intruder's in my house. That's when you need a police officer in seconds to minutes, not 40 to 50 minutes.
The problem is likely manpower. Since 2019, the police force has shrunk from 1,150 officers to about 950. At the current rate of attrition, the force could be down to 900 by the end of the year. Mascar says a patrolman recently told him that at that size force, citizens can no longer count on police to respond quickly, even when a threat is imminent.
It just blew my mind that I was being told by a policeman, I can't be there for you. We haven't got the numbers. Don't rely on us. We can't serve and protect. Look after yourself, which is desperation, really.
NOPD says the situation isn't that desperate. The department prefers to use median response times instead of the average. The median shows NOPD gets to half of all emergency calls in 10.5 minutes or less. But even that is 3 minutes longer than it was 3 years ago. Data analyst Jeff Asher says focusing on the median ignores what he sees as the biggest problem. Long response times on emergency calls are no longer a rarity.
There's lots more emergencies where you're having, 50, 60-minute response times.
Asher found it's taking at least 20 minutes for officers to respond to 1 out of every 4 emergency calls. And it takes more than an hour on 1 of every 10 emergencies, up from just 3% in 2019.
The goal of analysis is not to spread defeatism, to hurt morale, to place blame. It's to identify problems and help to inform solutions.
Ferguson and Mayor LaToya Cantrell have focused their solutions on recruiting officers, both through the police academy and through lateral transfers from other agencies. But Moreno and Asher say that takes too long.
David, I don't think that they can hire commissioned officers fast enough to get us out of this.
The NOPD has hired a private company to handle minor traffic accidents to free up officers. But Moreno wants Ferguson to do more with civilians, to follow Harrison's example. Now the police chief in Baltimore, Harrison is hiring civilians there to take police reports and handle initial responses to non-emergencies, to free up commissioned officers to respond to emergency calls.
He is acting with urgency to the crisis happening in Baltimore. Our chief needs to be acting with urgency to the crisis that is happening in New Orleans now.
Mascar says his friends back in England hear about the violence in New Orleans, and they wonder why he stays. Many of his friends have fled the city, but he's not giving up.
I want to believe there's hope that this is going to improve, because this is a great city, and it's just a shame to see it being ruined so much.
David Hammer, Eyewitness News.
NOPD spokesman Gary Sheets says the officers who responded to Mascar's call did not make contact with him when they first arrived because they were canvassing the area to make sure it was safe. He said commanders are investigating why the case was marked gone on arrival and why no report was filed.